Are you ready to go dancing in the moonlight?
Yes, I am.
Time to go over the latest R.A.P Ferreira album, Purple Moonlight Pages.
Woo.
R.A.P Ferreira, Rory Allen Philip Ferreira, aka R.I.P Ferreira, aka R.A.P Ferreira, aka formerly known as Milo and Scalps Hotel, is a Milwaukee MC and head of Ruby Yacht, his own label, which has several artists like Kenny Segal, and there's another one, Svarial. That is the other one. They recently put out the project, their compilation recently of all the different artists on that. It's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, it came out last fall.
But they also put out the Kenny Segal Hemlock Ernst album, which is very excellent and showcased Kenny Segal's performance as producer and how he can elevate anyone, and also showcased how Hemlock Ernst was trying to get back to stable ground. And it was a very really surprising mix-up of two artists who kind of essentially needed each other at that one moment, which is really interesting. But Milo himself, over the years, has put out some... Roy Ferreira, over the years, has put out some fantastic projects like So the Flies Don't Come In 2015 with Kenny Segal, probably his most accessible project out of all these.
I would say so.
Who Told You to Think, where he went a little bit more too philosopher-y, because that's kind of his style, as he's this philosophical,
like poetry over beats.
Spoken word, but more like a philosopher, higher standing style of artist. More, I think it's polarizing in the sense where I think some people just don't get it, and I think sometimes you're just not supposed to get it because that's just his mannerisms as they are. Nostra Grocers in 2018 with Lucid, which is this nice blending of Lucid's hardness and Milo's essentially his philosopher light character, and the blending of those two and how they essentially softened and hardened each other's edges, which is really nice. And they became like a very unexpected duo that put out this 20-minute project that gave us this void and stream of consciousness like hip-hop album that was very underrated even by them, by just essentially just kind of a throwaway project. And then following that up with Budding Ornithologists Are Weary of Tired Analogies in 2018, a more lo-fi, luscious space for Milo to kind of just lightly graves through just a bunch of different ideas and prospects.
Yeah.
I was excited for this album because he did the name switch from Milo to R.A.P Ferreira, and I was interested in what that would entail, if at any, to the music. And then I discovered that this is a collaboration with the Jefferson Park Boys, which is the team of Kenny Segal, who on this mostly does arrangement and production, Mike Parvizzi, who plays the Rhodes, the organ on this, and then Aaron Carmack, who does the bass. I think I put keys. Mark Parvizzi does the bass. He doesn't do the Rhodes. That's Aaron Carmack, I think. But I was interested to see Milo with the backing, what he would really do, because the tracks that he's been releasing under R.A.P Ferreira have been more energetic.
Yeah.
And in a sense, it seemed like almost like victory laps, because in a sense, it seems like he's just kind of skipping backwards. Like and I mean that in a way where it's like he feels so cocky that he can almost do anything at this point.
Yeah.
And he's so accepting almost of himself that he's able to highlight the more philosophical versions of himself in a more light and bouncy like nature, which is interesting. Like the track Leaving Hell, which is kind of almost about accepting the world around you, at least my interpretation of it, and finally almost turning your hell into a paradise of sorts. It's more about perspective, and hell is only in the mind. And it was very bouncy, very frolic-like, had these awesome horns and keys. The production was top-notch. The production across this entire thing is super jazzy and amazing. But also going back to like things that So the Flies Don't Come In, where it's more light, like void-esque, introspective type production with light synths and light percussion. More for Milo to reflect his personality than actually having something that will take the shine off him a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot more gaps in like the percussion and production as a whole.
Yeah. I like the intro that he has on Doldrum, where he essentially introduces the band and himself and kind of his thoughts going into the project. But we get things like Greens that has a sick improvised like bass line with thick kits and claps, and it kind of showcases fundamentally where the production of this entire thing's going to lead. It's going to feel very loose and stylish, and it's going to constantly change. And once you get kind of got sick of something, it immediately switches to another thing. It's like it doesn't linger for too long. It's kind of sporadically all over the place, which is nice. NONCIPHER has this lovely trumpet that appears and disappears into a lovely lounge like keys, transitioning into a trumpet that completely takes up the mix. Omens and Totems has these lovely cute synths that are downplayed with Milo's like slight cockiness, where he's a little bit more playful with his wordplay, and then they're broken up by these loud metallic percussion with snares and chimes that swallows the entire mix. United Defenders of International Goodwill has this weird mix of kicks, xylophone, and dreamy strings falling to the thick, sprawling city-like bass line and keys, like almost like an urban atmosphere style of production, or at least landscape of dictation of where you think the music would take place. Laundry is very playful. It has these thick square synth mixes with faded lounge keys, and it samples Childish Gambino and Master Ace on hook. And the track itself is essentially about Rory just doing laundry. And it's one of those moments where I really enjoy this track because it showcases, one, mundane life, but it also showcases like his impact on his son and the relationship we have, which I don't think we review enough albums or music in general where it showcases like a positive father figure. And it isn't like trying to get himself over as a positive father figure. It's just a showcase of mundanity.
The last one I could think of would be Maxo Cream's dad.
Yeah. But like that wasn't Maxo Cream. That was just his dad being part of the track. I was thinking of more of like a first person perspective.
No, yeah, I understand.
But like on this, I think he's fun and playful. It reminds me a lot of Mike Eagle on this track and kind of the mannerisms he used. Another day, another load of laundry. Soon as I woke up, that feeling was haunting me. Another dab with a hamper. I wonder if Chance the Rapper do his own laundry. Going on to I scoop socks calmly from under chairs. Underwears, it is its own load and spin cycle. Towels too. How are you? I've been busy keeping this home together. You know, I'm humming in the kitchen. My son listening. He stares with them wide old eyes, and showcasing like a nice relationship between the two in this mundane life and how he has a positive effect on his son, which I just find to be really charming and humanizing. For Milo, it's like it isn't that I don't find him humanizing, but it's like sometimes he seems like. And like I kind of enjoy this about him, but he like seems bigger than himself, which isn't necessarily a bad thing to take that kind of stance. But on this, I feel like he's taking kind of the same stance, but somehow finding a way to ground himself, which is what makes this the most interesting across the entire thing.
Yeah.
Dust Up has this long spring where he essentially goes in this long poetic moment that I'm not going to read because it's too long, but it's essentially him. It's talking about journey and what this album really means to me and what I think at least my interpretation of it is. It's more about this album's about Milo's journey and where he thinks Rory's journey and where he's kind of transitioned over the years and how he's kind of built up to this victory lap. Like, he's made a bunch of projects under Milo. He established himself as a key figure in the R.A.P scene. And now it's his moment to kind of be more ambitious with scope. It's kind of take more risk. It's time to be a little bit more playful and sporadic all over the place. It's time for him to kind of explore new horizons in his own life that are essentially the same horizons. Finding a new perspective to different things by still being the same person. And I think that's kind of what makes this album interesting to me, is that he's expanding himself by keeping the same aspects that make him, but just tweaking them a little bit. So this is probably his most ambitious project and probably his most, I would also say, in my opinion, probably most accessible project to date in a lot of regards. And I think he's still finding ways to get into deep poetic territory, to talk about very hard and, like, I'm not going to say hard and poetic and very thought-provoking material that you're not really going to understand all of it, because it's more for him, his perspective and his stream of consciousness. But I think he's finding new ways to expand himself by being the same person and having a different environment and having different tools and having a different attachment, but still getting to the same ends.
Yeah, without getting into the rest of these quotes or anything, I think that, like, it's very safe to say that, like, Milo is a lot more energetic, and I think that this production, like, really works well with him. I think that's one of, like, the scariest things that you can do as an artist is, like, fine-tune your sound. Because, like, some artists try to fine-tune their sound, and it just doesn't work out well. Like, I'm thinking of, like, Lil Pump.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, he was kind of sloppy on his first mixtape, and that's what I think made it really endearing. And then Harvard Dropout was extremely forgettable because I think that he went all trap and fine-tuned, and he was like, this is it now, and it just wasn't, it never got to, like, what it used to be.
Yeah.
I would also argue the same with, like, Yachty.
Yeah.
Never really got to the hypes of Lil Boat 1 because I think that he started to, like, fine-tune that trap sound again. But Milo, I think, almost realized that, like, his music was getting slower and more, like, nonsensical, and I don't think that he really wanted to get down that route. And so I think he started to, like, pick it up again. He worked with Elucid on Nostrum Grocers, and that might have been a throwaway project, but I definitely think that he learned a lot from it. Like, Ruby Yacht, I think, was, like, way too self-righteous and too...
Ruby Yacht was just all over the place, so it's hard to get an indication of
I just, like, didn't...
individual people.
I didn't really care for the feel of the project because it seemed like very old school, like, Philosophers Club kind of thing. But now, like, Rory mixing with the Jefferson Park Boys, like, Kenny Segal, I found, like, I think he always kind of knows what you need.
Yeah.
And he really prescribed it well to Rory on here. I love a lot of these, like, more energetic tracks, like NONCIPHER, Leaving Hell, an idea as a work of art with Mike Ladd, I thought was awesome. Doldrums. There's some really great, more energetic, more progressive tracks on here that just make Rory really stand out. And I feel like he's telling more stories. Yeah. He's more alive in, like, what he's saying. He's not just, like, old man on the mountaintop kind of thing. He's, like, guy who has, like, street smarts, who walks among us and is telling his stories, which I really enjoyed. The only thing that I would knock this on is, like, sometimes I think towards the end, like, maybe the last 2 or 3 tracks I just found to be dragging on, kind of boring, and he starts to kind of get back to some of that, like, old slower material, like sparsely populated material. And, like, not that it doesn't work for him, because it worked for many years, but now I definitely think that, like, once he's in this new territory, I never want him to leave.
Some things I want to touch upon. Doldrums refers to that idea of a period of inactivity, and essentially that period of talking about great intentness, increased lividity, essentially him trying to fine-tune himself and progress. Same thing with an idea as a work of art. It's more of him progressing, and his ideas of his statements of himself throughout the years have been works of art, and now this new idea of his statement of himself, also talking about ideas as we progress. This is a larger idea of as we progress through society, those ideas are statements of art and how we can improve as a society and various issues of that nature, but more or less to him, the improvements of himself or those works of art. Pinball has that great open mic eagle feature. Those two work flawlessly into one another, just so effortlessly. And Master Plan is the end where he's a little bit, there's like 20 minutes of noise where, like, I think him and Kenny, or like the Jefferson Park Boys, are like chatting amongst each other, and it's like, oh, should we start recording? And then it's into this like this jazz, straight up jazz track, which it reminds me a lot of not as intense, but what Bus Driver did on Electricity, or was trying to do on Electricity, is on our side. But the purpose is the creator has a master plan, and peace and happiness will roll through the land, and it's kind of accepting your own fate in the world, or at least finding some solace into it, as he's kind of trying to find some solace in his own point of view. I really enjoy this. I think it's incredible progression of an incredible artist I already found incredible, and him going down a different route, mixing it up a lot on here. And again, it sounds like a lot on this. He's just rapping backwards. He's straight up just like finding new ways to reinvent himself and new ways to do old things by still getting to the same ends means, but finding a new route and a new way to do things. I really enjoy this. Keep in mind those scores a few Talaminos. Right now I'm feeling 9+ on this.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9 as well.
Yeah.